state. Dina once stated, "Falling Princesses is the most authentic and complicated project that I've taken on creatively. It is the first time as an artist that I am venturing to examine the darker side of my own state of mind. As a mother of young girls, I feel that it is important to responsibly discuss the concept of happily ever after and to examine the issues that affect women in our society today." This looks like Janice Dickinson. Do you guys know? As an artist myself working in a similar fashion, I was really drawn to these panelist artworks. I have been encouraged to share my own work, which is particularly relevant to these notions of idealism and fiction versus reality. By appropriating one of the most stereotyped and maligned female figures in history, I too hope to shed some light on the myth and irony of idealism by masquerading as a real-life princess or queen. The fairy tale life of Marie Antoinette of France had a rather tragic ending, unlike those of the Disney princesses. I sought to humanize her by highlighting factual historical accounts of her generosity, intellectual interests in Enlightenment philosophy, breaking barriers for women in her own era and future generations, and suffering like any other woman, privileged or poor. Just as I masqueraded in the role of Marie Antoinette, she too masqueraded in the role that her social status and gender demanded of her. Marie Antoinette was sent from Austria to France to marry the future king. She was really meant to be to facilitate a sort of peace treaty between the two countries, to facilitate two countries that had actually been at war and had really quite despised each other. And as normal women, we too are experiencing this pressure to have children. But when you're in a role such as that of a monarch, there is no more important task for you than having a child. And not just any child, but a male child. So she was in a terrible position with a husband that wasn't interested in her, at least not sexually. And with all this pressure coming from both France and Austria to conceive and bring an heir to bind this alliance, she had no way of conceiving. She was under extreme stress for 7 years throughout this period. Eventually, they figured things out, and she began getting pregnant. Queen Marie Antoinette had to wear a special corset that was corset, unlike any other corset that any other woman had to wear. It was made of whale bones. It was completely restricting. It would cut off the breathing. It would impede digestion. It would cause fainting. And she had to wear this even when she was pregnant. So I'm frankly not surprised that she suffered so many miscarriages, though they were quite common at that time. This was a real surprise to me as I started researching the life of Marie Antoinette. She was actually very interested in reading the latest books. She read Voltaire and Rousseau and was really taken with them, much to the dismay of the rest of the court. When her first child was born, Marie Antoinette wanted to rescue her child, but at that time, wet nursing was a very common practice. In fact, it was considered garish to breastfeed your own children. Given the Enlightenment philosophy she'd been reading about Rousseau's ideas of naturalism, she was even more pressed to breastfeed. And when she was given a sum of money for having her first child, she used that money to free a number of French women from debtor's prison. They were in debt because of the bills to wet nurses that they could not afford to pay off. They had gone into debt simply to do what was socially acceptable. So she not only freed them, she also offered a sort of allowance to young couples and any young married woman who would agree to breastfeed her own child. How many of you have seen the Sofia Coppola film, Marie Antoinette? It's a great film. I highly recommend that you see it. It really draws out her humanistic side. I wanted to know what happens after the ending. Marie Antoinette was very religious. She never was heavy-handed, and neither was her husband. So as much as the people of Paris, the people of France revolted against her, she never had anybody killed. She never tried to stamp out the awful pamphlets that were going around the city, defamatory comments on her own status. And when she had her first son, unfortunately he died of tubercular fever. Unfortunately, at this time, the political situation was becoming very intense, and she was unable to take time to grieve for her child. Usually, France would wear black clothing of mourning at the time that a monarch passed. Nobody did that. He was this innocent little boy, and nobody cared. And not only that, but she and her husband and family were not allowed to see him in the weeks leading up to his death. It was considered a bad omen for royalty to be around death, so he was taken to a far-off cottage. This image is my most recent, and metaphorically brings my work up to the present. Autrichienne is French slang for Austrian bitch, a term that was coined as a nickname by the French people exclusively for Marie Antoinette. Sadly, men were not the only ones who used this derogatory term. Others like it are still prevalent in our vocabularies today and are too often used by women against one another. This is the final piece in the Marie Antoinette series as I reflect on what I have learned through my alter ego and extensive research into this pivotal point in history. Women of the past cry out to women of the present in hopes of clarifying their roles in the history books, which, coincidentally, were written exclusively by men. By re-examining history, we can learn from the mistakes of women of the past in hopes of not being doomed to repeat them. Returning to Dina Goldstein's work, and a little bit of Susan's. In 2012, Dina continued her exploration through a more contemporary pop culture icon of femininity. That perfect, plastic, ageless doll, Barbie. The elaborately staged series In the Dollhouse, created using real models that only look plastic, harkens back to the Carl figure, as played by Natalie in Susan's work. Both of them have woven a male representative into their art and have done so in an empathetic way. They are raising awareness of not only the identity of women and their role in relationship to men, but are both acknowledging that men too are bound by the pressures of role-playing to meet social expectations. One of the common threads through both Susan and Dina's work has been the stereotype of the idealized romance. You'll note the many examinations of gender stereotypes that run throughout the In the Dollhouse 10-piece series. I couldn't believe how similar these were, created years apart with no knowledge of one another. Dina's previous experience as a photojournalist has enabled her the practice of looking deeper into her subjects. Her ever-pervasive interest in social reality caused her to examine the inauthenticity of Ken and Barbie and to question the impact that this inauthenticity may have on generations of younger women, including her own daughters. This series doesn't just examine gender stereotypes, but it also critiques notions of perfection and beauty. With their perfect home, her perfect bodies, and perfect clothes. Is life truly perfect? And if I may interject my own reading of the work, I think the fact that Dina so skillfully convinces us that we are looking at dolls, when we are in fact looking at live models, really subverts the traditional power of the photographic image. We can never quite be sure of what is real with the photographic medium. Despite these seemingly perfect lives and relationship, upon closer speculation, Dina realized that while Barbie happily accepts the role that she has been forced to play by their corporate publicist, Mattel, Ken struggles in his truly emasculated role. Barbie also begins to notice some troubling signs of Ken's behavior in their loveless relationship. Dina borrows from the sequencing format of comic strips in this series. The dream is often seen as an omen or foretelling of things to come. I don't know, can those of you in the back see the Ken streaming up? Even in the most mundane moments, Barbie finds that Ken is more concerned with his physical appearance than she is with hers, as she finds him shaving his legs in a bubble bath. Eventually, she can no longer deny herself the truth of her husband's nature as she comes home one day to catch him having an affair. This image reflects a shift in Barbie's consciousness. Whereas previously, her thoughts seemed to be focused on the present and external world, this image identifies a transitional state and retreat into her own mind. She has become numb at this point of realization. She waits for him, and he never shows. She realizes the awful truth that she has lost her husband. In an image reminiscent of Frida Kahlo's Self-Portraiture with cropped hair from 1940, Barbie cuts off her own signature feminine long blonde hair, reflecting a major disturbance to her own identity. She dons one of Ken's suits in a further effort to masculinize herself. Maybe, if she were masculine, he could love her. This is quite interesting, that after spending so much time studying fairy tales, Dina has in essence created her own fairy tale, illustrating the potentially further consequences of living a life of illusion and finally being faced with reality. This is the final image in this series, which I believe aptly demonstrates the psychological term of depersonalization. This is a symptom often attributed with dissociative disorder, in which one often feels a sense of separation from their own body. There is a sense of strangeness to their own reflection in the mirror. Dissociation is thought to be a saving break in the thread of consciousness. By dissociating, we are able to survive extreme states of distress or trauma. So far, we have been focusing on issues bound by idealism. But with every fiction, there is a reality. So what happens when real life is unable to measure up to the expectations placed on us, both by society and by ourselves? What impact does the inauthentic myth have on... what impact does the inauthentic myth of the idealized feminine role, relationship, or body have on the psyche? I'd like to introduce you more formally to our next panelist, Birthe Piontek. She is a minor photographer based in Vancouver. Originally from Germany, Birthe moved to Canada in 2005 after receiving her MFA in Communication Design and Photography from the University of Essen. Her project, The Idea of More, won the Critical Mass Book Award in 2009 and was published as a monograph in 2011. Her work has been exhibited internationally in both solo and group shows, and has appeared in a number of international publications, like the New York Times Magazine, Le Monde, Wired, and The New Yorker. She has an upcoming solo show at Gallery 295 that opens this Friday evening in conjunction with the Capture Photography Festival. Birthe, although her work is based on the personal, many viewers often seem to forget that once these artists bring our personal lives into a public context, the personal becomes the political. We have seen this internationally with artists like Tracy Emin, whose work is often criticized for its shock value. But it takes courage to come forward with any perceived forms of weakness and to confront them publicly. Birthe, could you please tell us about how the idea of the real body relates to your work?
I think I'm not only interested in the real body, I'm mostly interested in realness in any kind of way. This project, the landscape project, started out I think 5 years ago when I became sick and my body started to behave in certain ways that it hadn't done before. And as a photographer, I think my first response or instinct was to, in order to kind of deal with any kind of this feeling of being overwhelmed and not knowing what to do or what is happening, in order to try to understand what is happening, I turn to the camera because that's usually a comforting thing for me to be taking pictures. So I started to just like in the beginning to just like capture. It was kind of like a visual diary to understand, to kind of like visualize what was going on and to express myself in that way. And over time, so these images are all like from the very beginning of that project when I was sick and not really quite knowing what was going on. And it focused definitely on the body. And the body is like a vehicle for catalysts to express what is underlying, like, or what is like inside of what wants to be expressed. Over time, the body of work shifted a little bit, and it kind of moved away. The focus moved away only from the body into accessing and expressing what else is going on. Like, you know, not only like dealing with sickness, but like what else is there in my mind and it needs to be expressed. And so it's not just like the focus on the body, like the realness of the body and like the rawness of the body and being vulnerable, but it's also like the complexity, I think, for me in this body of work as I moved on. What I wanted to express is like the complexity of our